Hello everyone and welcome to some bonus content from the Core Set 2019 pre-release brought to you by Wizards of the Coast. I'm Graham and I'm joined by our guests for the Core Set PPR. We've got Noxious, Victor Adame, Amyzonian, and Matt Danner, and we're here to talk about Core Set 2019 and playing it and what we enjoyed about the day. Matt, I'm going to start with you because you have the most perspective on this set because you've known about stuff in it for some years now. Was this even your first time playing it?
This was my first time playing with like the actual finalized card set, so I hadn't had an opportunity to do that before. Hadn't really gotten a chance to explore all the synergies, and I was I felt rewarded for actually like trying to go deep on the cards and looking at kind of like subtle nuances, like ET being the bugler, to like look deep to see, oh, okay, can I find either the 4-mana 2/2 that gives me a knight or the self clone, and like, man, all I want to do is just cast the 7-drop golem, the meteor golem,
yeah.
and just like vindicate, like destroy a permanent, and then like clone my dude. It's because it triggers the ETB again. Like just cloning your own creatures to just like double up on ETB effects was pretty awesome.
Did you encounter, because I know that this happens sometimes with when people from WotC come to these events, did you have any sort of moment where you were like, this is not how I remember this card?
Oh, all the time, right? Like it's one of the things where I actually have gotten back to the point where when I first started at Wizards, I was like, just show me the card content, I want to know. And now, like, what I'll do is I'll play test and then I'll let it go through its full design development cycle, and I'll step away from it and not kind of spoil the set for me, and I'll actually just wait for preview season because I like to see like, oh, where did these cards land? How did they end up? And the set looks awesome. It's a lot of fun to play with.
Amy, how about yourself? How do you enjoy getting your hands on the set?
I had a blast. I mean, it was amazing being able to find out about these cards the day of playing them, because spoilers were still going on into that morning and being like, oh, what's this, Millstone? I opened a Millstone. Check this out.
I did not know that they reprinted that until I think it was during, Matt, it was during your deck build on camera. I was like, is that Millstone? I even called it Grindstone because I was so surprised to see it.
Yeah, I was like, check out this card. This card's still in there. That's great.
Yeah.
There were a number of neat surprises, right? Where like you get to preview season and you like have like you've kind of like galaxy brained this idea of like, oh, I think maybe this is a deck, or like, oh, I'm worried about I'm worried about the Orzhov life gain deck and how am I going to combat that? And then like it's not until you're actually playing with the cards in practice that you actually kind of see what a sealed pool looks like. And that was one of the cool things for me, is actually just like going around and being like, okay, what did your deck, like, let me see your pool, what did it turn out, like, what did your, like, how did you deck build,
Yeah.
like, what into consideration?
That was super cool too, like the fact that you start off, because the sealed pool is different than draft, right? Like you don't get to make a hyper synergistic deck. You sort of try to pick off some pieces that work together. So you've got like 3 or 4 angles of attack in the same deck. They're like 2-card combos that if they go off or they do their thing, you're going to completely lock out your opponent. I thought that was cool, because M19 has a lot of them, and I'm not used, to core sets giving that, like as a sealed or draft experience, so I was really surprised.
Yeah, I built my deck around that enchantment, that Sarkhan's unveiling thing, the Eldrazi thing, and I had the Helions, which shuffle back into your deck, and that's like a good synergy to have if you happen, like you saw on the game with Kathleen, that the Helions kept coming back. Like I shuffled them and I just drew them again, and having that enchantment like would have given me the chance of like doing the board wipe effect on it.
Did you even get it off? Like
I did not.
No, not even once.
I never even drew it once.
Okay, yeah.
That was a shame. That was a pretty powerful card that I wanted to test out.
I mean, luckily you drew what, 4 Hellions?
Yeah, and I only had 2 in my.
You only had 2 copies, but you drew a Hellion 4 times, I think.
No, twice.
Well, you get the Hellion and then you shuffle it back in.
Yeah.
So you can bring it back out and then bring it back out and bring it back out.
Yeah.
That was pretty impressive.
That was fun.
Yeah, was that the color in your deck? I know you were in
Naya.
Naya, right? You were in 3 colors. That's
I was
right.
in 3 colors, yeah.
I think a lot of people ended up in 3 colors.
Yeah, the fixing, it was surprisingly good in the set. I wasn't expecting that because the basic land slot, I don't know what the percentages are, but it has a fair shot to include one of the common dual lands, which I wasn't until I opened the the pack, I wasn't expecting that.
And I feel like those dual lands are often even uncommon, if I recall correctly. So the fact that you have common dual lands, that has a lot of the ability to just splash a color, and the green as well has like the little elf that can fetch even non-basic lands to put them onto the battlefield.
Dig 5 one?
Dig 5 and they pick
Elvish
one land of your
Rejuvenator?
choice.
Yeah,
Yes.
Manolith is another
There's
one.
Manolith,
in the
Dragon's
common
Horde,
slot.
you had that.
Yeah,
Oh,
the,
yeah.
the
Yeah, you
rare
got a lot of
Manolith.
things.
The better
Hey,
Manolith.
it's a Manolith that if you have dragons is even better.
It's a Manolith with dragon upside. Yeah.
Well, and that was something too about just like people playing 3-color. Like not only was it, pretty easy for them with the fix, but like it also just supports dragons.
Yeah.
Right. Like I think that's the point. Is they're like, this is an Elder Dragon themed core set. We can't not give them fixing because then no one will play with them. So what ended up happening? I mean, none of them. Like there's like 2 of them in green, I think. But like there's a Chromium I got to play yesterday, as well with a little bit during the draft. It was kind of cool. Like there's so much to do in the set with even like the type of bombs you'd usually leave to the side, and you just end up playing them because you have the fixing in the set for everyone. Yeah. There's enough of it that like 2 to 3 or 4 players in a draft pod can probably fix their deck. Yeah, it's kind of unusual.
Yeah, I had like 2 different, like way different strategies in my deck that I could like access to because of fixing in the set. It was insane.
Yeah, I was surprised by that. And in terms of strategies, I feel like there's the obvious, there's a lot of obvious go-tos, like the typical, we're going to play white-black, aggro, beat down, some aura deck with white and red. But there's also a lot of weird hybrid, like control, like aggro control decks that you can build.
Yeah, that's possible because of all the life gain and all the token generations and the board wipes. Like you can like milling was in fact doable. Like milling's totally doable in limited.
What's there's an enchantment. It's psychic corrosion.
She got
So psychic corrosion. So you can you could definitely go into mill between the psychic corrosion, which mills each turn. If you have enough millstones, and then there's another spell which kind of continuously mills, which is great.
Patient rebuilding.
That's the one that I had opened, but going into mill in limited seems mean to me. It's like, oh yeah, I love having exciting games where I'm not playing any creatures.
There's also like this totally insane combo here. So patient rebuilding mills them 3, and then you draw.
Yeah.
So if you have the psychic one too, this thing's milling them 3, and if you're hitting lands, it's letting you draw, which is then milling them some more.
Oh,
right?
Then,
like those 2 enchantments together.
This in standard is going to be broken with Fraying Sanity, though, because it's going to be like, all right, Fraying Sanity, it's going to just loop and loop and loop every single turn.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a pretty fun thing. I mean, I'm glad that mill is viable, because like Dominaria, as to contrast it, there was a mill deck working in there with like Diligent, Excavator. I got a few trophies on the back of it on MTGO, a lot of time, yeah.
I guess no one takes the Excavator or the
no one
or the
bothers,
Homeric.
and the Homeric Explorer also wheels up until like the 3rd
and
card
then
left.
the 5-mana draw 3, mill 3, right?
Right, so like if you take Weight of Memory plus Homard plus the Diligence and a few artifacts and like a Mold Growth that reanimate artifacts.
Best friends.
Yeah, I think it's like
okay,
You can get some really funky stuff going on.
It's just chilling on there.
Oh,
It's
cool.
a fairy. The other card that we talked about having some versatility was Sleep, right?
Yeah,
Like, talked about it like in like the
Six
tempo
crab.
beatdown deck.
Well,
Like so,
crab.
Sleep got reprinted, right? So like Sleep is versatile in that like it allows you to do like I just curved into this 4-drop. Okay, sleep you. Okay, tap all your dudes, get in there. This turn and probably next turn too.
Yeah, because they don't untap.
But like I ran it in the mill deck because it was just like I need some breathing room for a couple of turns.
I need you to stop hitting me, please.
Please stop hitting
There's
me
a lot
so
of
But you know what? There's something that counters the sleep, and that's there's a green instant that untaps your guy and buffs him.
Wait, what?
Yeah, there
Okay.
was I can't remember the name of the card, but there's something, I believe it's in green, that untaps, and let's say your kill condition, your big creature won't untap this turn. Doesn't matter. You untap him. You attack with him. You just won.
See, I didn't even know. Usually there's like we talked about Gift of Growth and Dominaria taking you off guard with like the untap clause, and I feel like white and green usually have some kind of untap shenanigan in a combat trick at some point. So yeah, I don't know what the
I
card is.
think it was
though.
in green. It might not have been.
I was looking at my just for the mill strategy. How best do you think that would come together in limited? Because I was looking at my pool and I had 1 copy of Psychic Corrosion, and then I had 2 divinations and 2 of there was a combat, not really a combat trick, but it's like a give a creature -0 and you draw a card. So I had like
Oh, okay.
divinations and cantrips, but I only had the 1 Psychic Corrosion, and it's uncommon. I mean, I feel like no one's going to take it
Probably not in sealed.
if they're not. Yeah.
But like drafting's real. Like when we drafted for fun yesterday, I saw all the archetypes that were possible. And
What'd you end up in? You got like a bunch of reanimation
I got
shenanigans?
I got reanimation. I played Open the Graves and this other artifact, the Tomb that puts bats, and that was very doable.
What's the name of it?
Oh, there's
So
Open the
that-
Graves. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
so the
crazy.
Desecrated
Desecrated Tomb,
Tomb,
that
and
one,
we have
yeah.
Reassembling Skeleton is
I
back
had
in the
Reassembling
set,
Skeleton. I
which is
had
amazing with
Macabre
that.
Waltz. And I had a loop where you have this harpy that sacrifices the skeleton and you can bring it back, and with Open the Graves and also the Tomb, like you can pump up tokens over and over again. That was like that strategy is doable, and there's a lot of other strategies and archetypes, and the draft's real. Like the drafting.
The thing that surprised me was like, so all of you had like your deck A. Like when you built the deck A, and then when we were just sitting in the green room, you guys were battling like your B decks or like the side decks, and even just like the secondary decks were like really good. Like the depth of playables seemed that like it fit into a bunch of different strategies, which I thought was really cool. And then in limited, like what do we see? We saw Kathleen was on red white aggro and just absolutely ran over my mill deck. So like mill is viable. And particularly in draft, but like you're going to want those defenders, right? You're going to want to be able to
Wall of Mist.
I'm
Yes,
playing
there's a wall
walls
of
now.
mist.
Like I actually looked
Yeah,
at a wall and I was like, you know what? This would totally win me a game or two if it just could block.
Tusk.
So Wall of Mist, though, I don't think any of us opened it, but there's that brand new dragon, Arcades, and Arcades animates those walls, and I really wish one of us had that, even though there's very few walls immediately in the set, because it's great. But if you're in limited, you don't get that. Why would you play the Wall of Mist when you could play the Surge Horse or Surge
that's
Mare,
right,
which is
yeah.
it's a 2 blue horse. It's a 0/5 that you can pay mana to, I believe, give it +2, -2.
Yeah.
So it's
And
very
and
versatile.
It loots on the hit.
Yeah, it
too.
loots
so
on
like,
hit.
Surge Mare's up right now. This card I had last night, and it was an all-star, right? Like you just want to play this guy on 2 in the mill plan. I also had the 3 mana 1/2 wizard that animates artifacts.
Yeah.
So like
Oh, yeah.
turning your millstones into 5/5s, like that's the defender you're looking for.
Oh, that is absolutely nasty.
Yeah,
Just
but
keep
not
it as a
defenders.
blocker. It's like mill. It's like I could swing at your face for 5 every turn, but I'd rather just mill you for 2.
Far
And-
too classy
Or you
to
can
just
have
win
both.
through combat damage.
And also, if you're playing mill and you're like, I need a little bit more control, but I need a blocker. There's also the no longer a jellyfish, now human wizard. Yeah, so
The
they-
Exclusion Mage?
Exclusion Mage, yes. So Exclusion Mage is able to bounce a creature. So if there's a threat on the board, then you can remove it.
Yeah.
It's also works only on opponent's creatures, which makes it a little less versatile than like an unsummon. But you get a 2/2 body for 3 on top of that.
Yeah, and I feel like just blue got some really good tools with like Disperse coming in at 2 mana for non-land permanent. Like I played against someone yesterday. They had I put the Dwindle on their creature, -6, -0. If their creature blocks, it gets destroyed. So it's like a disabled tool effectively in blue. And they dispersed their enchantment as they took the block, so that they kept their creature alive instead of just bouncing the creature and replaying it on the following turn, like Unsummon would let you do.
Yeah.
Just the ability to just bounce the enchantment and then surprising with the trade was really cool. There's a lot more nuance to the format. One of the things I'm not sure about is like red and blue. Like we saw Adam with a really good sealed pool of red, blue spells matter, I guess, type deck. But like the creature base for that, I'm not sure how you can make. Like there's no equivalent, it seems like, to like a blue-red wizards from Dom.
No.
I think oh good.
No, I don't think the super aggro strategies are viable. I think this is more like a format to go bigger, because all the life gain running around, and all the walls like Omen Speakers and that sort of those sort of creatures, like kind of like prevent the super aggro like 4 turn, 5 turn, and you're toast strategies, which like they can be done, but I don't think as much in this format.
So the cards that I think that the Izzet deck wants are Gutter Snipe at the uncommon spot.
Yeah.
Right? Like, clearly, like
Yeah.
just a great finisher. And Kathleen was running it in her red-white kind of like aggro deck as like it was like, okay, I put some pressure on. What are you at? 7? Like cool. I've got a Gutter Snipe online, and then it's just like it's a Lava Axe, or you know there's the 4 mana make 2 1/1s, give all your creatures +1/+1 in haste, and like all of a sudden like Gutter Snipe your blocker out of the way, turn all my guys sideways, and then there's the card that somebody aptly described as having Prow-ish. which is the Windrake that anytime you cast an instant or sorcery gets +1/+1. So I think like the Izzet deck, if you're going to go beat down like once that evasion and once that tempo, it may even want the Exclusion Mage as well.
I think that the Exclusion Mage, just because you do get that body, I think that it would fit in there. But it's really that Gutter Snipe. I think that people are going to be seeking that out, especially in draft. Are going to go for things that are like, oh, we have lightning in here? Yeah, let's get some lightning, let's get some this. We got Lava Axe for that direct damage.
I really want to make a multiple Gutter Snipe deck.
Well, yeah, I had 2 Gutter Snipes in my seal with a double cast and a Lava Axe, and I was like, this has to be a thing, right? But the rest of my red was so bad that I just couldn't justify going into it. But I was like, this is the perfect opportunity. Like, next to me, Adam was deck building. It was just all the things. But that would have been like a 14 damage swing right away.
Do we also have Shock in this deck?
Yeah.
You also have Shock.
Like, if you need just like a really cheap spell, and if you have the
Shock and Lightning.
Oh my
the
god.
Shock, the Lightning Strike, and
Electrify.
yeah, there's Electrify too.
Oh,
And
yeah,
the 6 mana flame lands that just hits for 7.
There's all
And
of these
Banefire.
things that are just like, like if you
why
want
not?
red spells, if you want red spells that hurt, like you double that up with the Gutter Snipe or with the what's the 2 red spell that's double cast?
Yeah, double cast,
Yeah,
that's the
the
one,
double cast.
Yeah. There's also the clone we talked about earlier, with like Meteor Golem. With Gutter Snipe, that's real. Like, that is a real Gutter Snipe cloner. Like, if you're looking to, you got 1 Gutter Snipe, maybe 2, you've only drawn 1. If you can clone it, or turn another one of your creatures into it with the rare enchantment, then suddenly, like, every spell you play, whether it's Divination to cycle into more spells, or a Shock, or whatever.
Yeah, Mirror Image.
This card, Mirror Image, is
this
so
card,
nice.
yeah.
Like, if
Can
you
we talk
want
about this for a second?
versatility,
Go ahead.
this
Oh,
thing
goodness.
is versatile.
Yeah.
How much time do we have?
Go ahead, Matt.
Like Mirror Image is like, okay, like I've always been a huge fan of clone, and like the rate of like 3 and a blue to clone anything is great. Like Mirror Image, I'm like, oh, so the drawbacks, I can only clone my own things. But like, I was able to get this late enough in the draft in particular, where it was just like, oh, how were my first 5 or 6 picks? Oh, these are good. Oh, they're all creatures with ETB effects. Like, oh, I know what fits in here, right? Like copying your own ETB effects for extra value is like, sure, maybe maybe you're only like, oh, maybe it's a 6th pick, maybe it's a 7th pick, but if it's copying one of your 2nd or 3rd picks, like, oh, well, that's actually just
If it's
that
copying
good.
a Knight of the Tusk, right?
Yeah.
Can we talk about Knight of the
We
Tusk?
can totally talk about Knight of the Tusk.
So Knight of the Tusk is the 3/7 with Vigilance. It's a 6-drop, and it is a body to be reckoned with.
Yeah. There's not a lot of removal for that guy. There's not a lot.
Electrify doesn't kill it. It trades with the Hellion, right?
Yeah. But
Oh, that's...
It does trade down with the
I
Hellion.
mean, you gotta have murder. You gotta have, or like force the blocks or something else, because you're not gonna get.
Now, I
rid of that
will
guy
say
very
this:
easily.
Knight of the Tusk, huge fan. I will say that you kind of get diminishing returns on this guy, in that like the first Knight of the Tusk, great. The second one, you're like, the third one probably doesn't make the deck, right? Like it's just like you're probably doing something better with 6 mana.
But then again, you could have Sleep. Then he just...
They're just getting in there.
He just goes in. It's like, whatever. But I really like I played against you like a few skirmishes.
Yeah.
I was on like a white-black aggro build, like as a B deck, and Rustwing Falcon in the air with Knight's Pledge, right? So like you have a 1-mana 1/2 flyer, turn 2, +2/+2, and in the format, there's currently nothing aside from a murder early on that is going to stop it. Like you're just going to just
you
kill them.
can't shock.
Oh, yeah.
Murder or the shock and response,
It's
right?
unbelievable.
And the kill spells, they're all pretty expensive. You've got the Murder. I think that one's uncommon slot.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then there's the
The
5-drop.
5-mana one. Yeah.
Which is a bargain.
Lich
bargain.
Lich
Something.
Yeah.
So at 3 you have murder, at 4 you have the -3/-3.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, but like, there's a world where if you like, typically not a huge fan of enchantments going on my guys, because I'm just like afraid of the 2-for-1. But turn 1 Hawk, turn 2 Pants on the Hawk, like getting in there, like that
That's
guy's
real.
probably dealing you 6 if not 9 damage before you deal with that
There's
bird.
also the 2-drop Spirit, which is another just like a cheap
yeah,
flyer
the
that you
2/1.
can get out, and it's got Graveyard Hate too.
2/2. Wait, no, wait.
Is it a 2/1?
We're
I
talking about
believe?
a different thing? I think. Okay. I
There's
think
different.
Two
There's one in
creatures.
white and there's one in
Lich
blue. I
Trust.
think
That's
there's 2 different.
one of the few.
One flies, and I want to say the other one's just unblockable.
Okay. yeah,
Except by other spirits, but who's running spirits?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, that
But you
works.
can't enchant that one because it'll blow up, right?
Yeah, you can't target it.
But that
with
card, what's
that.
the name of that?
That's a pirate spirit,
It's the
something
pirate.
lost.
It's the pirate spirit. Oh no, the
Phantom
deckhand.
Pirate.
Deckhand.
Departed
Departed
deckhand.
Departed deckhand.
Alliteration.
The pressure that thing presents. It's turn 2/2/2, and it's unblockable.
Yep.
Like what was it? Was it Phantom Warrior was 2/2 unblockable.
Yeah, Phantom Warrior for 3.
For one
blue.
blue.
Yes.
Yeah. This is just 1 and a blue. It's unblockable except by spirits, not really a downside. And you can make other creatures unblockable later in the game.
And you can mirror entity it.
Oh.
Because that's an ability targeting it, not a spell.
And there's also there's a Spirit Lord in this set, so if you want to give that thing +1/+1,
Right, the Supreme
Spirit
Phantom.
Trial.
And you've
is
played in the
doable.
same deck, right? Because you're already looking for evasion just to
yep,
sneak
Supreme
through.
Phantom. So that's the 1/3 fight. That's what I was thinking of. But that's another thing that if you can buff that, if you're playing blue-white, you want to give that the Knight's Pledge.
You can't. I mean, the Supreme you mean?
This one
Okay,
you
yeah,
can't.
sure.
This one,
you
does,
can't.
this
My
one
bad.
does not die,
Yeah.
so you just got yourself a 3/5 on like turn 3.
Yeah, I did that a lot with on the ground with the little 2-mana 1/3 with lifelink.
Yeah, that's
the
powerful.
chaplain. So you wouldn't think that's a very good aggro card, but it just turns out to be a perfect recipient for Knight's Pledge. And if you've got a Johnny's
Daybreak
Pride
Chaplain,
made with like life gain synergies in white black,
It also
goodness
blocks all
gracious.
but I think one of the goblins
White-
for all those
white
little
black is
hasty
terrifying.
White Black's it's real. That's a real.
I think it's gonna take a lot of people off guard, like in terms of aggro. I also brainstormed a white red that was, you know, the 4-mana stag that when it attacks.
Oh yeah, when it attacks,
it taps a
one
creature.
of your opponent's creatures.
So what I realized is that in red you have active treason that's come in, which lets you effectively, because if you've got active treason, the value of the stag goes up because then you're able to actually clear the way for 2 things. So like white red aggro having a common hammer skull, right? Because territorial hammer skull in Ixalan was pretty good. Now you've got a common version of it at 4 mana.
I don't think I would pick active treason unless I had the Harpy Sack Outlet or like some.
Yeah, it's like
That
thud
could
to
be
sacrifice the
deadly.
creature and
or
deal
thud,
damage to their
or
face.
thud.
Or
Yeah, I mean, in draft it's totally doable, and I think it's a viable
Yeah.
strategy. Yeah, I love this set. I just want to draft
So
right now.
Thud,
feel you, bro.
Oh, so what,
there were
draft
very
right
few
now.
big green fatties. You were playing some of them in your deck. You had the Colossal Dreadmaw, you had Goreclaw. Thud, those, beautiful together. And I don't think any of those got it, but there's also the 5 green mana. So you really have to go mono.
Gigantosaur?
You have to go mono green with this. But
green,
I
green,
want to
green,
see somebody thud that.
Thud with the gigantic.
Yeah,
pick
so
up
it's like
this
I've got this dinosaur.
Just
It's a 10/10.
I would have had the Thud in my deck, just like Thud the Helion. Like I
yeah.
hit you for 7.
Smash
it's
you for
gonna be,
7,
yeah,
Thud you
and
for
then
7.
Thud. There you go, 14.
Yeah, there's
Also-
enough.
That.
Gigantosaur.
no, the flavor text on Gigantosaur. Each teeth is the length of a horse, and new ones grow in every 16 days. Let's get a closer look. I don't know who's responsible for all the Vivien Reid flavor text, but she is the crocodile hunter.
Yeah.
No, wait,
Yeah.
Right?
She's Vivien Reid is just
Vivian Steve Irwin Reid.
She's
like
just what can I say? She's a Fauna fan, right? Like
a fauna fan.
that's more the alliteration.
Love it.
But no, Vivien Reid, definitely a friend of the wild, right? You can see her there with her spirit friends.
Yeah. Her abilities remind me a lot of Huatli's, like the white red, that just gave you like a destruction effect depending on the power of the creatures you had, plus it let you try to dig for.
Oh no, that
Yeah,
was the
but
deck one.
Vivian's +1 ability lets you check the top cards and grab a creature.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. Actually, is it a creature or,
Or
a
land.
land?
Or a land here, yeah,
So if you need to use a ramp up to, say, your Gigantosaurus, then you could. If you're like, oh, I don't quite have 5 green,
The
if you're
green.
going like green and red. It's pretty great. And the destructive
Yeah.
ability on the -3, I don't see it being used too much, except if somebody is, say, used bonds, luminous bonds on one of your creatures, you can unbind it. If there's a flyer that would otherwise kill Vivien, because the flyers are
dragon.
Angel,
Yeah.
Angel
If
of
there's
the
a-
Dawn, whatever.
if there's an
Yeah.
angel, if there's a dragon, if there's something in the air, even one of those spirits, you can get rid of it so Vivien will stay alive.
Yeah, I really underrated her. I think.
And there's a
initially.
lot of artifacts in the format as well. We
Destroy
were
your
thinking about
millstones.
including because there's Rex Sage in the set.
Yeah,
and-
Reclamation Sage is
Yeah,
back,
Reclamation Sage is
Green
in
is
the set.
good.
And there's Naturalize, and like at first I was like really not considering those cards, but like after playing a few games, like you could totally have those in the sideboard, so like as a thing because the artifacts are there.
Yeah, even Invoke the Divine, right? Which was played a lot in draft prior to that. Like you would often draft it if there was enough of a density
Yeah.
of. And the thing is, there's a lot of disabling enchantments. Blue has one, Luminous Bonds
Yeah.
comes up, and then there's
Yeah.
just the sometimes card draw enchantments that I played yesterday, Colossal Majesty, which also gave me a lot of draw.
4-mana O-ring, like this.
Right, exactly,
Rex Age
yeah.
feels like it has a lot of active targets. Also, mirror entity.
Good point.
I would absolutely run Reclamation Sage, if only because, as we said earlier, there is such good fixing in the set that I feel like people are going to be leaning on stuff like Manolith, and like I would absolutely just blow away someone's Manolith on the assumption that I am ruining their third color.
Yeah.
You could be stopping their dragon from coming
Exactly.
out. And there are Elder Dragons.
There's a lot of dragons.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dragons. The I had Lathless, the Dragon Queen.
I remember that.
Yeah, that was not.
I remember Laughless.
That didn't.
I love that the dragon egg
that
triggers
felt
her.
like, that felt like powerful magic. Yeah.
That was a fun game to watch. For sure.
Yeah, Lathless
really
being a
fun.
6/6 and then chaining into Volcanic Dragon, which itself has haste, and it's like, oh, suddenly there's 3 dragons. Yeah, Lathless is.
Sorry, man.
She's a real beating.
Put
I had a
counters on
chance.
that gold horde.
Yes, on
Oh,
my
yeah.
Dragon's Horde as well. Yeah.
Dragon's
What
Horde.
do the gold counters do for the dragon?
You can tap the Dragon Horde and take a gold counter off to draw a card.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just turns into some card engine.
Card draw.
Yeah.
You
For
just
more dragons.
sift through the cache, and you're like, oh, I found a card.
Yeah, it was kind of nice. I really like every color has removal. Like even green got a better pounce as it doesn't fight. You just sort of deal damage. Rapid
red
bite.
bite.
That was
Red
around
bite.
like in the
Yeah.
werewolf era of. I forget
in
what the
Shadows
exact
of
set is.
Innistrad, I think?
Shadows
Yeah,
of
SOI
Innistrad,
probably.
yeah.
So that was one of the better fight tricks that green had. Problem is it's sorcery speed, but the upside is, well, you can capitalize on those creatures staying there. Like you can snipe a 6/6 with your 6/6 and not lose it.
Yeah, doesn't fight.
Yeah.
That was good. Yeah. The other one that like forces blocks. The
Oh
plus
my
three-
goodness.
plus 3 and like you have to block.
Assert Dominance, I think
Yeah,
it is.
assert dominant.
It's got the big gorilla on
The
it.
gorilla.
Gives +3/+3 and
Declare.
forces.
This is like
Declare.
sleep. This is like sleep, but
It
better.
forces everyone though to block that one buffed creature. So you can swing wide with that and just be like, oh yeah, you have to block this one with the enchantment.
We took Giant Growth, attached Lure to it.
Yep.
Yeah,
There you go.
That's exactly what you
And
get.
it's also
Put it on your 7/3 on your
is it
dreadmaw.
prodigious growth? It's something big. It
Titanic
gives,
growth?
Titanic growth?
Titanic
No,
growth,
it's
It was a 7/7 and
yeah, it gives
trample.
+7/+7.
The
That
aura.
one.
Oh, the
The
aura.
aura.
Yeah.
Yes.
How good does an aura have to be for it to be rare and playable? Well, 7/7 and trample. Yeah.
And it costs 6. And also it's got some more Vivien Reed like delicious flavor text. Look at how cute it is. It's got this big ant on there. Just like, aw, Vivien,
Look how
I love
cute
you.
it is now.
Yeah, now I'm gonna read those flavor texts on an Australian accent now.
I just.
If I could
is
talk
there,
in an accent, maybe.
there has to be one that's like some sort of death touch spider, and she's like, "Great, let's go poke it with a stick." Like, is that? I don't know if that's actually in the set already, but surely
good.
there's one where
Might
she's
not-
like,
might-
yeah.
If that's something you'd like to see, I'll take it back to the
Okay,
office.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can we see
Just
Vivien again?
lean into Crocodile Hunter Vivien Reed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like her as a planeswalker. Like in general, just the aesthetic is kind of different because we used to have Garruk. Now we've been like having Nissa for the past. I mean, I can't even remember how long it's been since we've had another green planeswalker really come in. It's nice to have like a change of scenery there.
And this is too fancy. We need somebody who's an outdoors woman.
Garruk
Right,
had a
yeah,
turn.
precisely, yeah.
Yeah, Nissa's all about nature, but she's more about seems more about the plants than the animals.
Yeah.
I feel like she'd be like standing on her high tower dictating to the plants instead of like Vivien Reed. She's out there in the woods. You
Yeah,
can see her.
she's a
She's like in a.
scientist.
She's in like a chopped down forest, I actually think, in her art, or like a burned down or chopped down forest, and she's like, "Oh, I'm protecting this because nobody else is taking my trees."
So part of it is like I think her. Well, I don't want to get too far into it, but stay tuned for her backstory. It's pretty.
All right,
I
cool.
don't wanna-
All right.
okay.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
Do those wolves come into it at all? The
Yeah,
ones on the
the
art?
spirit animals are definitely part of it, and the decimated background
Okay.
all plays into kind
Alright,
of how
cool.
she came to be. And so yeah, like we were all talking about kind of just how like we're all green mages here, which I thought was something that was really wild. You
Yeah,
don't run into other
we're
people like
so-
we're all part of the Civic Combine. Real talk. Well, I mean, all but
I don't like blue, but the green half I'm all right with.
I lean a
Yeah.
little more Selesnya myself, but
Yeah,
fair
me too.
enough.
Celestia, Gruul.
oh yeah.
Okay, so we're the only true Simic players. So
but
we
all
leave
have
them
green.
aside.
we know about the
green
green.
in our
Everybody knows
blood.
about the green. And so like just be like, what do you guys want to do? I want to cast big creatures. Like so we talked about that 7/7. The card that we saw Cam do. So we talked about how scary black-white was.
Yeah.
right.
And we took the card that we saw, the combination of Epicure of Blood
Yeah.
alongside
Vampire Neonate?
the Neonate.
Yeah.
That I played against it again last night. Adam had like double Neonate with Epicure on the battlefield, and it was just
Yep.
like there were like turns where he's like, okay, end of turn, tap 4 for you, I gain 2, and then had Diamond Mare
Oh yeah.
on
Diamond
black.
Mare.
So it was like, oh, Diamond Mare on black, cast a Neonate, gain a life, drain you 1, murder your guy, gain a life, drain you 1. And it was like that. Even though I was the mill strategy and I wasn't planning on killing him with damage, like the black-white just seems super resilient against the beatdown decks too. 2 mana, 1/3 lifelink.
There's a lot of things where you're gaining 1 life at a time. So all of those gain life triggers, they're doing great.
It feels like there's a point where if you have the perfect combination of cards, you just put 1 mana into this terrible machine, and then life gain and drains just sort of
gears are
happen.
turning.
All these triggers go off, and then your opponent's dead.
It's like the Vampire Blood Drive Rube Goldberg machine.
Precisely that. What's the uncommon? The gold card?
Oh, the Batman. So the Batman.
Oh yeah, the Bat Lord,
like-
or whatever
Oh
his
yes,
name is.
so
You have it.
I had it. It's a fellow who at your end step, each time during the end step, if you've gained life that turn, you get a 1/1 bat. You don't have to pay anything. You just get a bat.
Yeah,
and
and
then
it's a 2/4 for flying.
Johnny's Welcome. Like if you need another gain life trigger, you just got a creature coming under your control. Or if you have the Mentor of the Meek, you just had a creature coming under your control. You can pay 1, draw a card. Ooh, what's this?
Johnny's Pride Mate.
Oh my God, a Johnny's Pride Mate is going to be brutal. Yes,
yeah,
the
there
Regal
is the
Bloodlord
Regal
I
Bloodlord.
had. And I mean, you get a 2/4 flyer for 5. That's a wall in the air.
nothing to scout at, yeah.
But it's still enough. And those black-back creatures, you'll trade with the Thopters if you need to deal with Tezzeret. That can help deal with Tezzeret.
Do you think if you have the Regal Bloodlord, it's worth running the whatever it is at Johnny's, the Soul Sister as an enchantment?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Which one? What is that?
This one?
Johnny's Welcome.
So there's Johnny's Welcome, and then there's the
okay,
uncommon.
yes.
The other one that I know you're a big fan of was the
The fountain.
There's the
Fountain.
artifact.
I calculated
yes.
yesterday during like every game, I actually gained about like 8 to 12 life with it. So like a 1 mana gain 8 turns into tempo. If you actually look at it, like it's just buying you a
Fountain
full
of Renewal
turn.
is dirt
And the card
cheap,
draw
too.
if you need it.
Oh, you just
card
gain
draw-
1 life every
renewal,
turn.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, kill people with that. It's
And
just like a
also-
Johnny's Pride Mate's growing. Oh, hi.
If you need an artifact on the board for that 3/3, was it Phylactery Lich? Phylactery Lich. I can't really pronounce it right. There you go. You just got yourself the dirt cheap artifact on the board to put that counter on.
Or it's a 5/5 suddenly.
Yeah, there's
because-
also a
turn
blue
animated.
there's definitely a blue artifact deck as well, because there's the one
Right,
drop
yeah.
1/2 in blue that becomes a 2/2.
Yeah.
There's a 4 mana 3/2 that draws you a card if you control an artifact, and there's the 3/5 artifact creature for 5. Yes, the Gearsmith Guardian.
Gearsmith.
That's just a 5/5 for 5.
Yeah.
If you
If you have a blue
if you
creature.
control a blue creature. So it's this back and forth blue artifact synergy. That seems pretty great.
We had the
pretty
blue
good.
historic decks in Dominaria, and I feel like that's going to play into a lot of those cards in a more outside of the limited format.
The other one that impressed me a lot was the blue 2/1/2 that brings a Thopter.
Goodness gracious, yeah. Aviator, Pioneer, whatever
Yeah.
the name
The
is.
Aviator Pioneer. You have Psy in the rare slot.
And that's a common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's everywhere, man.
The other rare is one with the machine, which I haven't seen
I
draw
pulled
7
2 of
yet.
them.
But the day that I get to go,
I had it in
Meteor
the draft
Golem
yesterday,
into
and I had
one
to
with the
pass up
machine,
that.
draw 7. I mean,
It
I
just has
really
to draw.
want to try to live the dream.
It has to draw 5 with the 5 drop that we just talked about. It's like if you're already in those colors, like you're drawing 5 for 4 mana. In black, you pay 4 life for that. You know, and you get
Manolith,
less cards.
right? Like even Manolith, and
That's
you're like,
three.
draw
That's
3?
a 3 cards for 4. Like
do
you're not
you-
going to get better than that.
What color do you think you're most often wanting to pair? What pairs well with this blue artifact deck?
A nice white wine.
Well, a nice white.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A nice white. Yeah, I think white is where I'd go.
I think that makes sense.
Unless you're going for like the very spell focused, which again you can go with the Izzet colors.
Right.
But I feel otherwise, you can definitely get yourself the
I mean, there's
card
so
draw and
much
control.
card draw just in blue. Divination, Sift, like at common, both of them. It's like
Right,
you
yeah,
really
Sift
don't
is
need
best,
another
yeah.
color to complement you, barring like their removal. Like if you can find the removal, then the artifact deck's gonna come together.
I think white's probably, if not the best color in the limited format. I think it's like the top best ones.
white feels like it has
White
some
feels
really powerful
very
commons, and
powerful,
even the ones that like we were saying like, oh well, in a vacuum aren't good. Like they fit into one of the other archetypes, right? Like the 1/3 gain 3 draw card, where you're like, well, I don't want to do that. And it's like, well, but if it's making you a bat, draining your opponent 1, and right, like there are just so many. It's way less conditional than it feels.
Yeah, well, I always wanted to splash white because of that reason. You always have like splashable cards at a reasonable cost, and yeah, I feel like they power a lot of strategies also.
So you mentioned Selesnya, right? Like you guys like the Selesnya color.
Yeah.
Like green-white, from what I've seen in my sealed at least, it felt like there was something there to do, but then I felt like it wasn't, because you don't draw a sufficient amount of cards like inherently to really get there. So you have the elf to fix you up and maybe like splash something else.
Enchantress.
Right, like the enchantment deck. Like I had it. I had the Satyr, whatever the Satyr 3-mana 2/2 that just draws you.
Yeah.
I had the one that drew you a card, one that made beasts as well when you enchanted it. It's just like.
Oh yeah, you have that. You have.
But
that
it doesn't
enchant.
have hexproof. Like you can't.
Druid?
Yeah,
The druid.
but that's the problem. Really, is like you're playing an aura, and you get a
There it is.
beast. But then if the creature dies, like it dies, you're
need
losing a lot of it. In the
You need the
process.
worst rank core, the one that you bounce back to your hand. And
That's
you,
exactly
like,
right,
Play it
yeah.
again, and you have the satyr, and you have the guy that makes beasts.
Yeah.
Like slap it on and
Talons
off.
of Wildwood?
Yeah, Talents of Wild.
Talons.
Yes, plus
We
one,
were
plus one,
making
and you
fun
can
of
bring
that
it back
card
to the
yesterday,
trash.
but
I'm making fun of it still.
bring it
I'm
to
not
the
gonna stop.
graveyard.
But
No, I feel like there's definitely a place for it, especially if you're worried about, oh, I have a lot of mana, I'm in green. There's so many things in green that either bring out extra land, or there's the elf, is it Elfham Druid that you can tap.
the Cowl guy, yeah, same thing.
Or
basically,
Druid
yeah.
of the Cowl, that's the one. So the Druid of the Cowl, though, you have all these extra sources of mana, and you can use that extra mana. Sure, it's just a 1/1 enchantment, but if you get extra things, if you get card draw, if you get additional buffs, it's worth playing.
When we were talking about how important, we talked about the green mare.
Right. Oh,
Right, we
Oh,
talked
yeah.
about the
goodness,
green horse.
Oh my God, that
and
hexproof
we were
is
talking about,
brutal.
that and Snapper from Dominaria, and just how good toughness is on your hexproof creatures, right? Because it's going to have to die to combat damage. Like putting the talons on this thing, it puts it into crawworm range.
I have to say, I had a real problem with Vinemare when we were doing that draft yesterday. I was
Oh, yeah, I played against
I was
you.
playing against Amy, and I had, I only had, my only creatures with power were black creatures.
There
I
you
had
go.
I had like the 1/1, I had like the 1/1 Thopter, and then like a Wall of Mist, and I was just like, I guess I'm just taking 5 every turn.
Yeah.
I figured out like there's a green-blue unblockable because there's a 2-mana enchantment in blue that gives your creature can't be blocked and +1/+0.
Ether Trespass? No.
Whatever the name of it is, this is the only hexproof creature in the format, I think, barring like a Chromium you discard for. This is going to be like a weird uncommon to ever pick because you have to have a very good reason to do so. But if you're in green and you can
5/3 hexproof
Man,
might
that's-
be the body.
a 6/3 that goes face
Invisible
every
Stalker
turn.
is back.
It's very
I
slippery.
don't know, man. That enchantment is really spooky.
Oh, speaking of Simic,
Yes.
talking about the Combine.
Oh, please go.
The 2/3 that puts
Oh
counters
my
on your guys. So
Oh, the elf?
we
the
all,
flying.
like we were talking about just how great uncommon build around cards are, right?
Yes.
That like just like
Yes.
unlock a strategy for you. And yeah, there's the 2/3 elf with flying that adds counters and gives flying to other creatures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in green-blue, so it kind of gives you that excuse, too.
Yeah.
It's
It's also a brutal card, just by itself. Like
It
play
can't
that
buff
and
itself.
other creatures,
Yeah, exactly.
and that's it. That's all you need.
It's like a Hadana's Climb, but
Yeah.
it flies.
Yeah, that's a good point. Add uncommon in every single Simic draft I'm ever gonna make that. And the fact that you can copy the card with the blue that exists is like you can generate a bunch of +1/+1s every turn.
There we go. Skyrider Patrol.
You can make Thopters in blue, so you have recipients for your like you can spread those +1/+1s every turn
All of a
however
sudden
you
you got
feel
2/2
like.
Thopters.
Yeah,
Or
It's so-
6/5 or 6/4 horses.
it's
Like
Four
that's
flying horses.
such an inexpensive +1/+1 counter, though. You only for 2. Only for 2.
The rates, but I guess like the drawback is it can't put counters on itself, right?
Right.
But
that's where you have the clone, so you can put counters on each other, and they just both
another mirror entity target.
So we talked about the mirror entity, but there's another card which allows you to enchant one creature and make it into a copy of another creature.
Yeah.
Oh, the rare, the meta.
No, it's uncommon. I think.
I think it's
No, it's a rare.
I think it's
It's
a
rare,
rare.
and none of us got it. None of us played it. But there's a lot of potential
There
with
it
that
is.
card. Yeah, the
Metamorphic
Metamorphic Alteration. It is only a 2-drop. It's an aura, but
No,
and
you
can
played
Yeah,
it, right?
Oh, you
played
did
against
have
me.
it.
I had it in my sealed.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's hard to excuse it.
Copied Victor's
You
Nightlord.
first made my knight not being able to attack or block,
Yeah,
and then
I
you
did.
copied it for yourself.
Yeah, I
So
did.
the reason why
What a
I love
douchebag.
this
Then I made it-
is
Then I made
is a
another
card.
one from my other mirror image.
You can't play it, but I can.
Gorgeous
Sorry.
because it's no. Like let's say you have a Thopter, you have some just dud token. You're just like, but what if it were anything else good on the board?
Yeah.
What if my Thopter were a Knight of the Tusk?
Yeah.
Also, what if my
Leave the
Thopter
knight alone.
were a 5/3 hexproofer?
and
That's pretty good.
Right,
too,
like
yeah.
That is
because
disgusting.
you could,
Yeah,
it's
no.
choose, right? Like
Yeah.
the non-target, like putting it onto my guy and getting your hexproofer seems.
Or any like legendary creature. If somebody plays an Elder Dragon, you're like, I have an Elder Dragon.
I can have one too.
Or your Elder Dragon becomes
You made this?
Like
I made that.
That is
It
nasty.
goes both ways.
That is nasty.
Yeah, it goes both ways. You can
Make their dragon a 0/5
yeah,
wall.
make their dragon.
You do need a body in order to use it on your own side. But also, I could totally see somebody using this in combination with the wand that makes oxen. So let's say you make an ox, and then you're like, cool, now everything else gets to be an ox.
Yes.
That was an amazing moment in the game. I'm just like, oh, so all my beefy green dudes that I built a deck around are now oxen. Yeah.
I love the transmogrifying one. I got it again in the draft last night.
I think it's pretty bomby, honestly. Like, it's one of
I
those
think it's
cards-
great
I think
in
it's-
limited. I think it's great.
And we figured out like the synergy with Dragon Egg and the synergy with
Oh, yeah, the
the
Dragon
Doom
Egg
Dissenter, the dies that makes a zombie when it blows up,
Yep.
the enchantment in black that makes zombies when your stuff dies,
Oh, yeah.
the reassembling skeleton. It's just like there's so much that you can do with that wand. That like
Yeah.
if it had the exile clause, which would have been a flavor win, it lost all the cool mechanics
The
win.
synergies that you'd have there.
Man, it is a pretty cool card.
Speaking of a mechanical design thing, I love that I don't know when the decision was made to give all the original Elder Dragons new cards, but I love that there was obviously some sort of internal discussion of, well, hang on, wait, because Nicol Bolas is a planeswalker, and we want to give him a new creature card, so what do we do there? And so it's like, well, there's one double face card in the set, and it's Nicol Bolas now.
Gosh, this card.
No one saw it.
I already have 2 Grixis decks built for Brawl, and one of them is a Nicol Bolas deck. So it runs Nicol Bolas the Planeswalker as your commander, as you can do in Brawl, and then the Planeswalker deck Nicol Bolas because, I mean,
Right.
I heard you like Bolus, and then so this guy's actually going to be the new general. So just the 4 mana 4/4, great rate, like, and then it turns into this thing. Like,
Yeah.
This card, it doesn't.
And it's just a pay to transform. You don't have to hit some crazy trigger. It's just like once you have the mana available, your 4/4 flyer just became this.
Yeah.
Or it might even just make sense to keep it as a 4/4 flyer. That's huge damage.
Yeah. Or you can flicker it over and over. You have no hand, and then it turns into a win condition.
Sure.
And
Why
like
not?
the hoop that you have to jump through isn't all that hard. Like, yeah, you had to play some lands and then put it in your
Again,
dragon. It's like, I was
mana
going to play lands
fixing
anyway.
is big here.
Yeah, in limited, I think that's one of the things too that you kind of need mana sinks to really do anything, and there's actually a surprising amount of them in the set. You know, we talked about the blue-green thing that buffs another creature, but there's also like the artifact, the encyclopedia that just you pay 3 every turn and draw a card. So you just sort of have an artifact there that works with the 4 mana spell that draws you cards based on the artifact. And it can just turn into like it's an expensive divination, granted.
But it's a good card. Like
You can use it
you're
over
gonna
and
find
over.
yourself with a lot of free mana to like
Right.
spend. And yeah, since the format's like kind of slower, it allows these like bigger plays, which I find really appealing. Like me as a commander player, like I kind of play that similar kind of extension to limited because all these cards and all the life gain and all the big toughness creatures and all that stuff. I think it's really fun.
So goblins.
I love them.
Oh wow, yeah.
That came out of nowhere, but
The
goblins,
Trash
huh?
Master,
We didn't even
the
talk about
Master of
goblins.
Trash.
Yeah, actually, Amy, can you talk to us about goblins for a bit?
Well, this set's very important when it comes to goblins because you get the Goblin Infiltrator, which is a goblin that gets a second goblin, or not infiltrator, instigator. And then you have the Trash Master, buffs your goblins, lets you destroy artifacts. This, like, there's also a couple other goblins in the set. There's the one that, depending on the number of goblins you have when it enters the battlefield, you deal that much damage to any target.
It's the
like,
Flame Tongue Kavu for goblins.
Yeah, the Flame Tongue, but for goblins. And there are goblin generators out there. And I'm actually hoping that this will bring up a rise of goblin white-red token decks that are like, how wide can I go with goblins? In Dominaria, we had there was the 5-drop that brought in,
Siege King Commander.
Siege King Commander
Yep.
brings in 3 goblins. What if it were 6 goblins? What if then you dealt damage directly with those goblins? And you've got, of course, Bombardment, where it's like, I'm going to kill my goblin, throw it at your face, do damage directly to you and a creature. There's just so many fun things.
What about a 1-mana goblin that maybe you would tap
Gives
to give another
things
creature
haste?
haste?
Yeah, that guy.
So I was running that when we did the draft at night. I was actually running that with a whole bunch of huge creatures. I was running Gruul colors. So I was like, all right, I'm going to get my Colossal Dreadmaw out, and I'm going to give it haste. it'd be bigger.
surprise.
It'd be fast.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Just noticed
It's got
something
haste.
amazing about this art. Goblin Motivator looks like he's like a pendant.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's kind of
yeah,
like
he's
got the
around
giant by the pendant.
He's like
this
the
way,
shoulder
buddy.
guy.
He's riding some kind of giant. Yeah.
Yeah, some kind of massive ogre. I mean, you can
that's
see the
cool.
scale of the landscape in the background.
Goblins.
But again, like the thing about the big green creatures is like, oh well, they all lack haste, which is too bad. Like, well,
There it is. There's your
And
haste.
in red green too, there's actually a piece of ramp on top of the Rejuvenator, the Draconic Disciple that I played as a splash in my green blue. Like if you go green red, you have pretty much all the acceleration / ramp / fixing you're looking for.
slash 7 mana 5/5.
Yeah, I mean,
hidden
and
dragon.
you can actually like give it haste if you really feel like it. Like late game, if you play it and then you have the 10 mana open, you can give it haste with the Goblin.
Give it haste. We'll just like EOT your turn.
Right,
I crack it,
exactly.
now I've got a
It's
5/5
just-
that's
Yeah,
coming
I
out
don't
back
know,
next
man.
turn.
Yeah, one of the things that I was really bummed about is because when I played the Helions, I thought of like, oh, I'm gonna hit you like right now. And like,
I'm
oh
not.
wait, no, they don't have haste. And this Goblin solves a lot of those issues, and I really think you can surprise someone by playing that and just like a turn 4 attack you. for
Hasty
7.
Hellions.
Hasty.
Hasty Hellions.
But there's like the Hellions were a really weird card to evaluate. I thought when I was looking at sort of the spoiler, because it's one of those cards that can single-handedly win you games or alternatively do nothing. Because again, until you kill them,
Yeah.
it's just some damage. So the problem with red in general, I feel like in the set is, it's more of I feel like it's a secondary color unless you get those massive like dragon bombs and then you really want to go heavy in red. Like you got Lathlis and you know the dragon at 6 that just haste.
The volcanic dragon. Yeah.
Red felt very secondary, barring the removal. So you have to sort of get one of those bomb dragons, but you can be on the lookout for stuff like Hellion plus the +3/+0 first strike trick.
Yeah.
That just like demolishes, and then you can thud it to the face. Like if you find those synergies in a sealed pool, and you're able to build around them a bit, I think this
Yeah.
is something to watch out
Especially
for.
draft. I think that strategy is doable. Like totally
Totally in
viable
draft, yeah, absolutely,
draft,
yeah.
So, you know, we've been talking for some time now about core set 2019, which is a core set, the more sort of simplified set for newer players, and there's no new mechanics. The only returning mechanic is double face cards, and that's only on one card in the whole set. And yet, we've been having all these discussions about how cool this is for limited. How does this feel as a core set?
It's like a grab bag. It's fun.
Yeah.
And you mentioned before, you get these brand new synergies that you didn't think of before because they've never been in a set together. Especially with those small life gain triggers and everything. Oh yeah, you give me the nod like, oh yeah, I died to that.
I died to so many viable strategies. No, but
I love dying to many things.
like, yes, it is just a core set. But the crazy part about it is like, here we have a bunch of cards that like you read the card and you're like, I know what this does. But it isn't until you actually like start playing with the other cards. Like the synergies aren't on the cards themselves; they're with the other sets. So seeing how they kind of like dovetail into all these other different strategies is like, for me, it feels like a home run.
Yeah, you got a lot of synergies and engines going on that like you may not be aware of until you actually have those cards in your hands. Like you discovered like new synergies. Like look at your opponent and think, oh, this can work well with my card that I have in my deck. And I think that was something that we haven't seen in a while on limited environments. Unless it was like a tribal theme or like some theme going on, but like this is just like even copying your meteor golem, like that's like that's a thing, like that exists, like you can do that, and yeah, I feel the set's gonna be fun and it's gonna appeal to a lot of new players because it is a fun Magic. Like you never get that feel bad feeling from losing because you're losing to fun stuff and like you don't feel overwhelmed by the bombs as much as you feel on other sets as well.
Yeah, and not just for new players, because we're
pretty veteran-ish.
We are
I guess,
not,
yeah.
and we've been really enjoying it. You know, like there's not necessarily a complexity of the new mechanics, but the cards are there that have a potential to sort of take things to a higher level if you already are a more invested player.
That's a great point, and just in terms of like, I'm ready to draft it again. It used to be you go back in the day, like okay, we 8th edition draft, right?
Oh my god!
And you're
yeah,
like,
no.
okay, you look at it and you're like, yep, I get it. This set, we've sealed decked it once. We've drafted it once, and I'm like, I'm ready to draft again because I don't feel like I've like plunged to the depths of like where this thing can get. And so, like,
it's not complex, but it's very deep, and this is sort of the hallmark of a very well designed core set is that it's simple. Like it seems simplistic even where you're looking at the surface level. Like the cards are so easy to parse, but then you put them together and it creates this massive puzzle. And the thing is, I want to draft it, yes, because maybe I don't get the strategies, but it's also, I want to be the guy playing red-blue spells matter in that format. Like, I want to try it out. Like, what does it feel like to pilot that deck, as opposed to just, understanding what it does?
Yeah, when I was looking at the previews, I saw, like, I thought there were, like, some odd inclusions, like the guy that, when it dies, you get a zombie, and I was like, okay, this was, like, totally a filler card.
Right.
But it's not!
It's not a filler card. It's the cornerstone of a strategy. You don't get it.
It's the cornerstone of a strategy. Like,
we also have a lord now that's like, oh, we're going to buff that zombie that just came out.
And I thought that was just like a money reprint. Like I thought they were like just reprinting it for like the value and for like, I don't know, modern availability or something. But no, like you had it in your draft pool yesterday, and when we were drafting, you were left from me.
Yeah.
And we were drafting left that round, and I was like so bummed out that you had to like pass it left. I was playing the zombies and I was playing the skeletons. I had 3 skeleton archers in that deck.
Oh, that skeleton archer, man!
Archer.
Like if I don't have the Death Baron, Dread Baron,
Death Baron,
Baron, in that deck, like those would have been really good.
Like that's actually just a kill shot, right?
It's a death touch shot. Yeah,
because
exactly.
your skeleton archer ETBs deals 1 damage, and with Death Baron,
and
that's
it
1
gives
damage.
it
Can we just state
right?
that?
So,
like when you look at Death Baron, you see, oh, a zombie lord. It's like, no. It's not just a zombie lord, and it matters for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
Like skeletons have historically been sort of like the sidekick of zombies, but they kind of always weren't very
less
good.
meaty, right?
I feel
Right.
like they've
They just
never
don't
been
do very
named
much.
on a card before.
I have read Death Baron like a dozen times, and I'm just now realizing that it also gives them death touch.
Yeah, and the skeleton archer just goes, oh yeah, I'm curving.
Yep, and reassemble skeleton. Like you could have like I remember you playing, and we saw your hand, and you made a trade with a Death Baron, or was it reassemble?
Yeah, on the board I think I was.
Yeah, but I actually
made a
forgot.
trade.
I was like,
Is
oh my
it
god,
6/6, right?
if I had brought it back, I would have had a Death Toucher. I realized
A
it
Death Touch
afterwards.
blocker. Yeah.
And not just a Death, like one that I could bring back.
Yeah, back, like
and
over
bring
and over,
back,
yeah.
and bring back.
You think Skittering Heartstopper was good at just like tapping 1 black, death touch 1 drop? Nope, man. Infinite skeleton coming back. It's insane.
So the point is, I think, the takeaway is that we had a lot of fun.
Yes, we
Yeah, and we love that set. I can't speak.
And that Core Set 2019 has been great. So check it out when you have an opportunity to. Thank you all so much for being here, for coming to the pre-release. This has been a lot of fun. For you watching, we have some more bonus content to come between now and when the set is released. But until then, thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.
speaking of set release, Graham,
Oh yeah.
what can they do next week?
Oh, that's right. If you presumably you're watching this between the pre-release and the Magic Open House, which is this coming weekend. So check out Magic Open House at your local game store, and then next week, check out the actual pre-release.
Smooth.
That's the brand manager.
Yes.
Nailed it.
All right. Thanks so much for watching. We'll talk to you next time.